This week, we delve into new cases of COVID-19 and what that means for the vaccinated. We take you to Texas schools where a controversial decision was made, and in Jamaica, they demand reparations from Queen Elizabeth. In other news, Louis Vuitton purchases streetwear brand Off-White, and Jay-Z's first album is for sale. Welcome to Baldwin's Beale Street News, where we always capitalize the B in black. The Delta strain of the coronavirus is said to be more contagious than the original COVID-19 that struck the world in 2020. According to medical experts, the vaccine does not protect against getting the virus, but it is said to prevent death or symptoms that would land you in the hospital.
This morning, CDC Director Rochelle Walensky sounding the alarm on the Delta variant.
It is one of the most infectious respiratory viruses we know of and that I have seen in my 20-year career.
Florida is experiencing the nation's most significant increase in new case numbers and hospitalizations. New cases are up by 490% over the last month. Daily hospital admissions up by nearly 55% in the last week alone. Dr. Michelle Aquino says numbers in Jacksonville are skyrocketing and that 99.9% of her hospital's patients have not been vaccinated.
Hospitalization and deaths are continuing to rise, but at a slower rate. To date, Louisiana, Missouri, and Arkansas are among the states with the highest number of cases. They also are said to have the lowest vaccination numbers.
They're getting sicker faster, and we're seeing a lot of these younger people in the ICU, and we're seeing deaths in younger people. When you see someone under 40 die because of COVID, when there's a vaccine they could have gotten to prevent it, that breaks your heart.
Missouri reporting a 234% jump in new virus cases over the last month.
I personally have experienced more patients die within the past 2 weeks than I have had patients die in the last 6 months.
Some cities tightening restrictions. New Orleans and Philadelphia joining Los Angeles, now recommending that vaccinated people wear masks indoors, although the CDC is sticking to their mask guidelines for now.
You may choose to add an extra layer of protection by putting on your mask, and that's a very individual choice.
With 520,000 vaccine shots being administered every day, over half of the country is still not vaccinated. Many states are considering bringing back their mask mandate, including Los Angeles, where it is now a requirement once more to wear masks indoors. More on this story as it develops. While the controversy surrounding critical race theory is still a hot-button issue, Texas has passed new legislation that stops schools from teaching that the Ku Klux Klan is an immoral organization. The Senate bill calls for a stop to teaching women's suffrage and the civil rights movement. Other off-limit topics include farm workers leader Cesar Chavez, Susan B. Anthony's writings about the women's suffrage movement, and Native American history.
Republicans wanted to be sure teachers aren't telling your kids that white people are inherently racist. So this last session, they made a list of concepts public schoolers should and should not learn.
To get that bill through the House, the Republican authors allowed Democrats to tack on a whole host of other issues that the Democrats wanted to talk about.
It was a compromise, a limit on controversial discussion, mostly about race, in exchange for mandatory lessons about things like slavery and a woman's right to vote. But when the special session began, Republicans decided to cut lessons Democrats lobbied for.
It looks like they are effectively banning the teaching of all these subjects.
The new bill would not prevent teachers from talking about things like the KKK. They just wouldn't have to. But they never have before, since the legislature only mandated those lessons this May. Political scientists say it all begs a new question.
The bill was passed in Senate by a vote of 18-4. Other states continue to consider similar restrictions as they develop new curriculums across the country. With a history in Jamaica that includes over 600,000 slaves during the 18th century, petitions are circulating, calling for reparations from Queen Elizabeth. Jamaica only gained its independence in 1962, but is still a part of the Commonwealth, with Queen Elizabeth being the head of state. The island seeking billions of pounds in compensation over the enslavement of Africans that generated fortunes for British merchants. Jamaica became an English colony in 1655 after the British seized the land from the Spanish. DJ, designer, and culture curator Virgil Abloh started Off-White in 2013. Since then, he made history as the first black creative director for Louis Vuitton menswear. Along with acquiring Off-White, LVMH plans to have Virgil continue to design for the brand while consulting on other imprints in the company across hospitality, food, and beverage. More on this story as it develops. Luxury's most powerful conglomerate, Louis Vuitton Moet Hennessy, has purchased a majority stake to the tune of 60% of the popular streetwear brand Off-White. Damon Dash owns 1/3 of the label that is Rockefeller Records, with its sole asset being the Reasonable Doubt album. In June, the executive announced that he would be selling his stake in the company, and auction dates have officially been announced. Black executive at the most powerful luxury company in the world. The designer says he's thrilled, telling The Times he's finally getting a seat at the table. Amid legal threats from Jay-Z's team, music executive Damon Dash is selling his interest in Rockefeller Records, specifically his third of Jay-Z's iconic debut album, Reasonable Doubt.